This woman I married, the love of my life, Catherine.
You know, I've been in this game for 50 years, and the last thing I ever thought about was having my hands in.
Sam Elliott was one of Hollywood's most recognizable stars. Tough, talented, and seemingly untouchable. But now, at 80 years old, his life looks very different. And whispers of a lost fortune have fans asking what really happened. Join us as we uncover the truth behind Sam Elliott's stunning turn of fate. A hard beginning. Sam Elliott was born on August 9, 1944, in Sacramento, California. He came into the world during the final year of World War II, at a time when the world was rapidly changing. His early years were spent in a modest home with working-class parents who believed in discipline, hard work, and staying grounded. His father, Henry Nelson Elliott, worked as a predator control specialist for the U.S. Department of the Interior. That meant he helped manage wildlife populations, often protecting livestock and farms from animals like coyotes and mountain lions. It was serious and rugged work, and it often kept him away from home. Sam's mother, Glynn Mamie Sparks, was a high school physical training instructor and a woman who believed in strength, both physical and mental. She encouraged healthy living, structure, and self-discipline, values that Sam carried with him throughout his life. Despite coming from parents who were practical and grounded, Sam began dreaming big from a young age. Even as a boy, he was drawn to films, particularly westerns, where the characters were tough, quiet, and stood for something. The cowboy roles he watched on screen stayed with him and planted a seed deep inside. When Sam was 13, the family moved to Portland, Oregon. That's where he spent his teenage years and finished high school. He wasn't the loudest kid in class, but he stood out with his deep voice, height, and calm presence. People noticed him. While he played sports and kept a low profile, he was also dreaming of something more, a life in movies. But one of the most important and painful parts of Sam Elliott's early story is his relationship with his father. Henry Elliott didn't understand his son's love for acting. He was a man of logic and stability, and he believed show business was no place for a serious man. Sam once shared that his father told him he didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of making it as an actor. Those words stuck with Sam for the rest of his life. He wasn't angry, just deeply hurt. He loved his father, but that lack of support left a scar. Tragically, Henry died suddenly of a heart attack when Sam was only 18. It happened before Sam had made any real progress in acting. That loss was heavy. Sam carried the weight of not being able to prove himself to his father, not being able to say, "I did it." In later interviews, Sam admitted that this early loss, mixed with the pain of his father's doubts, became a driving force behind his ambition. He wanted to succeed, not only for himself, but also to honor the potential his father never saw. After high school, Sam attended the University of Oregon in Eugene, majoring in English and psychology. But something wasn't right. His heart wasn't fully in it. After a year and a half, he dropped out and moved back to Portland. Still, the desire to act wouldn't go away. He joined a local theater company, and it became clear that performing on stage gave him a sense of purpose. People started to take notice. He had a natural presence that couldn't be taught. Eventually, he returned to college, this time to Clark College in Vancouver, Washington, where he seriously began studying drama. In 1965, he performed in a production of Guys and Dolls that earned strong local reviews. One critic said he was born to act, and Sam finally started to believe that maybe he had a chance. That small encouragement gave him the final push he needed. Still, the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Sam knew he needed to be in Los Angeles if he wanted to make it in film. So he packed up his car and left Oregon behind. He didn't have much, just a few belongings and a dream. In LA, he took acting classes and worked construction jobs to pay the bills. It wasn't glamorous. He lived in small apartments and faced rejection again and again. But he kept going. What set Sam Elliott apart was his focus. While others partied or gave up, he stayed committed to his goal. He kept taking roles, small ones at first, in television and film. He knew it might take years, and it did. But that slow grind shaped him. It made him tough, dependable, and ready for whatever Hollywood could throw at him. Through all of this, Sam never forgot where he came from. The doubts, the struggle, the early loss of his father, all of it built the foundation for the man he would become. It wasn't an easy start, but it gave him something more valuable than instant fame: grit. And when his big break finally came, it wasn't just about success. It was about proving that quiet strength can go a long way. Up next, we'll dig into how Sam slowly climbed the ladder in Hollywood, and the role that finally got people to take him seriously. In the late 1960s, Sam began working in Hollywood. He had the look, tall, lean, and with a strong jawline that made him stand out. He also had the voice, deep, calm, and unforgettable. But even with those qualities, getting noticed wasn't easy. His first roles were minor. He appeared in television shows like Mission Impossible, Gunsmoke, and Lancer, often in single episodes. These roles didn't bring him fame, but they helped him learn the craft and build experience. One of his early film appearances was in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It was a major movie starring Paul Newman and Robert Redford, but Sam's role was very small and uncredited. He played card player Hash 2. Most people wouldn't have known it was him, and it didn't do much to push his career forward. But being part of such a big film gave him a glimpse of the Hollywood world. Interestingly, it's also the film where he first saw his future wife, Catherine Ross, though they didn't meet on set and wouldn't connect until years later. At first, Sam's rugged Western look made it hard for casting directors to place him in different roles. His appearance, cowboy hat, mustache, and that steady stare made people assume he could only play one type of character. Directors saw him as the strong, silent cowboy, and that was it. For a long time, that limited his opportunities. He didn't have the clean-cut image of a leading man in romantic comedies or the eccentric flair of character actors. He was stuck in a box. But what once held him back slowly became his strength. As time passed, Hollywood began to appreciate the kind of authenticity Sam brought to Western roles. He wasn't pretending to be tough. He actually came across as a man who lived through hard times and came out stronger. That realness started to work in his favor. His first big break came in 1976 with the film Lifeguard. In it, Sam played Rick Carlson, a 32-year-old lifeguard facing a midlife crisis. The movie was not a huge box office hit, but it became a cult favorite, especially among people who appreciated more thoughtful and character-driven stories. What made Lifeguard special was that it gave Sam a chance to show more emotion and depth. He wasn't just a stoic figure on a horse. He was a man dealing with real-life questions about purpose, identity, and aging. There was a struggle that followed him throughout his career: typecasting. Once Sam became known for Westerns, many casting directors refused to see him in other roles. Even when he wanted to try something different, he often wasn't given the chance. He has talked about this in interviews, explaining that it was frustrating to be seen only as a cowboy. There was much more he wanted to explore as an actor, but people weren't always willing to look past the surface. This created a tension between how the public saw him and who he really was. On screen, he was always calm, confident, and in control. But off-screen, he was a thoughtful man who cared deeply about his work and often questioned where his career was going. He wanted to take on characters with emotional complexity, but Hollywood kept pushing him back into the same familiar roles. Even so, Sam didn't complain. He understood the business and accepted the path he was on. Instead of fighting against it, he made the most of every opportunity he was given. Whether it was a western, a romantic drama, or a small supporting role, he gave it everything he had. Professional highs and unexpected turns. As the years went by, Sam Elliott didn't just become another actor people recognized. He became a symbol of a certain kind of American character. He had been working steadily since the 1970s, but by the late 80s and early 90s, he started landing roles that would define his career and help shape his image as a true Hollywood icon. One of those defining roles came in the 1989 action film Roadhouse. Sam played Wade Garrett, a veteran bouncer and mentor to Patrick Swayze's character. The film was a gritty mix of bar fights, biker gangs, and small-town corruption. And while it wasn't a critical darling at the time, it quickly became a cult classic. Sam's performance stood out. He was tough but calm, violent when necessary but always in control. His character had wisdom and experience, and people believed every word he said. His chemistry with Swayze was natural, and fans appreciated the quiet strength he brought to the role. Even today, many people still quote his lines from the film. Then came Tombstone in 1993, a major turning point. Sam played Virgil Earp, the older brother of legendary lawman Wyatt Earp. Set in the Old West, the film told the story of the Earp brothers and the famous gunfight at the OK Corral. Tombstone became one of the most beloved westerns of the modern era. It had a strong cast, sharp dialogue, and gritty realism, and Sam's performance was one of the highlights. As Virgil, he was brave, loyal, and grounded, a man of duty and honor. His presence on screen gave the film a deeper emotional weight. Just 5 years later, in 1998, Sam made a very different but equally memorable appearance in The Big Lebowski. In this offbeat comedy directed by the Coen brothers, he played the Stranger, a mysterious cowboy who narrates parts of the story and appears briefly at a bowling alley. He wasn't just a serious Western actor, he could play around with his own image and still be believable. By this point in his career, Sam Elliott had become known for a few key things: his voice, his look, and his presence. His voice, deep, slow, and rich, became one of his most powerful tools. It wasn't just how he sounded, but how he spoke. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice unless he had to. Whether in a film, a commercial, or a voiceover job, people instantly recognized him when he spoke. He was calm and confident, and that made people pay attention. His physical presence also mattered. Sam wasn't flashy or overly muscular, but he had a quiet strength. His tall frame, iconic mustache, and steady gaze made him unforgettable. He didn't need to move much to control a scene. When he was on screen, you watched him, even if he wasn't saying anything. That ability to command attention without trying too hard set him apart from many other actors. Even with a strong list of past roles, Sam Elliott experienced a surprising career boost later in life. In 2017, he starred in The Hero, a smaller film that let him explore something more personal. He played an aging actor famous for a single Western role, now facing illness and reflecting on his life. The film felt close to home for Sam. It gave him a chance to show real vulnerability, and critics praised his performance. It was a quiet, emotional movie that reminded people of how much he could do with just a look or a pause. Then came A Star Is Born in 2018. Sam played Bobby Maine, the older brother and manager of Bradley Cooper's character. It was a supporting role, but it was deeply moving. The performance earned Sam his first Academy Award nomination, a long overdue moment of recognition. For many fans, it felt like the industry was finally giving him the credit he had deserved for years. Love, loyalty, and family. In an industry known for short relationships and public breakups, Sam Elliott and Catherine Ross have created one of Hollywood's most lasting love stories. Their relationship has lasted over 4 decades, and through it all, they've kept their personal life mostly private, focused on love, loyalty, and family. Sam and Catherine first crossed paths on the set of the 1978 horror film The Legacy. At that time, Catherine Ross was already a well-known actress, having starred in major hits like The Graduate and Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid. Sam, on the other hand, was still climbing the ladder, taking on steady but smaller roles. Interestingly, they had technically worked on Butch Cassidy years earlier, but they didn't meet then. He was an uncredited extra, and she was one of the film's stars. Fate didn't bring them together until years later. On the Legacy set, there was an instant connection. They kept things quiet, but it was clear there was something strong between them. After 6 years together, they got married in 1984. For Sam, it was his first and only marriage. For Catherine, it was her 5th. But this time, it was different. They were both mature, grounded, and ready for something real. Their bond was built not on fame or glamour, but on deep respect and love. Since then, their marriage has stood the test of time, something rare in show business. They've worked together a few times since, but mostly they've kept their careers separate. They've also kept out of the Hollywood spotlight as much as possible, preferring life on their ranch in Malibu, California. Sam has said in interviews that his home and family life are the center of everything. Work always came second. The couple has one daughter, Cleo Rose Elliott, born in 1984, the same year they got married. Cleo grew up in the public eye, but chose a different path from her parents. She didn't go into acting. Instead, she found her voice through music. She released her debut album, No More Lies, in 2008. Her music style is more rock and alternative, showing a creative, edgy side. Though Cleo has shared red carpet moments with her parents and seems close with her father, her relationship with her mother has been complicated. In 2011, a disturbing report came out when Catherine Ross filed for a restraining order against her daughter. According to court documents, Catherine claimed that Cleo had become physically violent, including an incident where she allegedly stabbed her repeatedly in the arm with scissors. The event shocked many fans, especially those who saw the family as a quiet, stable unit. Despite that very public and painful moment, the family never spoke much about it afterward. Over time, it seems the situation improved. Cleo continued to attend events with both parents, and in later photos they appear united and supportive of one another. It's a reminder that even families who seem perfect on the outside can face serious challenges behind closed doors. Sam and Catherine handled it with dignity, keeping most details private while focusing on moving forward. Throughout his career, Sam made choices that prioritized his family. Unlike many actors who chase every big role or move from one set to another, Sam was more selective. He didn't want to be away from home for long periods. He's often said that being a father and husband was more important than constant work. That's why many of his roles were filmed in the US, often on shorter schedules. He avoided international shoots or long location jobs when possible. He also turned down roles that didn't feel worth the time away from home. But even with a strong family and a respected career, Sam Elliott couldn't avoid the heat of controversy forever. And when it hit hard. The power of the dog controversy. For most of his career, Sam Elliott stayed out of controversy. He was known for being humble, hardworking, and respectful. But in 2022, that all changed during an unexpected moment on a podcast. What started as a casual conversation quickly became a headline-grabbing controversy that surprised many of his fans and caused a wave of backlash across Hollywood. It all happened during an episode of Mark Maron's WTF podcast in March 2022. Sam Elliott was invited to talk about his work and his thoughts on modern westerns. During the interview, the conversation turned to The Power of the Dog, a critically acclaimed Western-style film directed by Jane Campion. The movie starred Benedict Cumberbatch as a complex, emotionally repressed cowboy living in 1920s Montana. It explored themes of masculinity, identity, and repressed sexuality, and was praised for its deep storytelling and emotional power. But Elliot didn't hold back his criticism. He called the film a piece of ***, expressing frustration with what he saw as a false portrayal of the American West. He took issue with the film's setting, even though it was shot in New Zealand, and said it didn't feel authentic. But the most controversial part came when he commented on the film's allusions of homosexuality. His tone and language struck many listeners as dismissive, even mocking. The reaction was fast and intense. Many people were shocked to hear those words coming from someone like Elliot, who had built a career on being calm and respectful. His comments were called out as homophobic by fans, critics, and members of the LGBTQ+ community. Social media quickly filled with angry reactions. Some people said he was out of touch. Others were deeply disappointed, especially younger fans who saw The Power of the Dog as a powerful and much-needed story in modern film. Director Jane Campion didn't stay silent. When asked about Elliot's remarks, she responded sharply, saying, "He's not a cowboy, he's an actor." She added that his comments were sexist, unfair, and completely missed the point of the film. Campion made it clear that the story was meant to challenge traditional ideas about masculinity, not to insult or misrepresent Western culture. Elliot quickly realized the weight of what he had said. Just a few days later, he issued a public apology during an event hosted by Deadline. He said, "I wasn't very articulate about it. I said some things that hurt people, and I feel terrible about that." He admitted that he had overstepped and made it clear that he did not intend to hurt anyone or speak against the LGBTQ+ community. His apology was sincere, and many people appreciated that he took responsibility instead of doubling down. He said he respected the film and the work done by everyone involved, especially Jane Campion, whom he called a brilliant director. Still, the damage was done. For some fans, the comments left a mark. Others felt the apology was enough and moved on. The deeper question behind the controversy was this: what made Sam Elliott react that way in the first place? Was it generational? Was it a case of old-school values clashing with modern storytelling? Some critics believed it showed how older men in Hollywood can still struggle with changing norms, especially when it comes to masculinity. Elliot had spent a lifetime playing a very traditional image of the American man: quiet, tough, and emotionally guarded. The Power of the Dog took that exact image and broke it apart, showing the pain and confusion that can come with it. It may have felt to him like an attack on the roles he built his career on. Others felt it was just a matter of poor judgment. Elliot might have had strong personal opinions about the film's tone and artistic choices, but his way of expressing those thoughts crossed a line. Instead of offering respectful critique, he came off as dismissive and even hostile. It wasn't just what he said, but how he said it that struck people the wrong way. As for his image, the controversy didn't destroy his career, but it did shake the way some people saw him. For years, he had been seen as a quiet symbol of strength. Now, that image had a dent. For some fans, it made him seem more flawed and human. For others, it was disappointing to hear those words from someone they respected. And still, some longtime fans defended him, arguing that he was simply being honest and that he owned up to his mistake. And not long after the backlash, Sam Elliott made headlines again, this time for the shocking transformation he went through for one of his most intense roles ever: health decline and transformation. In 2021, Sam Elliott took on one of the most challenging and praised roles of his career, playing the deeply broken and emotionally complex character Shay Brennan in 1883. The show, a prequel to the hugely popular Yellowstone series, told the story of early American settlers traveling across the frontier. Elliott's role wasn't just another Western part. This one demanded emotional depth, physical strain, and a kind of raw vulnerability that few actors could have handled with such realism. Shay Brennan was a man weighed down by loss and trauma. At the start of the series, we learn that his wife and daughter died tragically from smallpox. Grief has left him hollow. He's a former soldier turned guide, helping families cross the treacherous plains of the American West. But he's not just leading a journey. He's carrying deep emotional pain every step of the way. Elliot brought that sense of exhaustion and internal struggle to every scene. Fans and critics noticed right away that this was a different Sam Elliott. His usual strong and quiet cowboy persona was still there, but Shea Brennan felt more broken, more human. He was still brave and tough, but behind that strength was a man who had seen too much and lost too much. The performance was widely praised. Some said it was the best acting Elliot had ever done. It earned him a Screen Actors Guild Award in 2023 and proved once again that age had only sharpened his talent. But along with that praise came another kind of attention about his appearance. Viewers noticed how much weight he had lost. His face looked thinner, his body leaner. Some wondered if it was part of the role. Others worried it might be a sign of something more serious. Online discussions began to grow, with fans expressing concern about whether Elliot's health was okay. The weight loss was noticeable, but nothing was officially announced as being wrong. In fact, many believed that the transformation was mostly intentional. Shea Brennan is a man who has been worn down by life. He's someone who wouldn't be eating well or resting much. So the physical change in Elliot made sense for the character. It helped make the performance more believable. And still, people were curious. Was the change entirely for the role, or was there something more going on behind the scenes? Sam Elliott has always been a private person. He doesn't share much about his personal life, especially when it comes to health. That silence led to more speculation. In interviews around the time of 1883, Elliot did speak about aging, though not in the way fans might expect. He talked more about the emotional side of getting older. He shared that the character of Shea Brennan made him reflect on mortality and grief in a deeper way than ever before. Playing a man so close to the edge of life forced him to think about his own time on this earth. He said in one interview, "You get to a point where you realize you've got more years behind you than ahead, and you start thinking more about what you want to leave behind." He also talked about the challenge of doing physically demanding roles at his age. "The body doesn't bounce back like it used to," he said with a small laugh, but he was clear that he still loved the work and wanted to keep going for as long as he could. There was no talk of retirement. If anything, 1883 seemed to light a new fire in him. As for the weight loss, Elliot never gave a direct explanation. Whether it was a choice for the role, a natural result of aging, or something more personal, he left it open to interpretation. And in typical Sam Elliott fashion, he didn't make a big deal about it. He let the performance speak for itself. And it did. At 80, he still carries the same powerful presence that made him a star decades ago. But now, there's a deeper sense of reflection in his work. He's not afraid to show pain, loss, or weakness. That's what made his role in 1883 so moving. It wasn't just about being strong, it was about being real. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss our next story.